Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on how to leverage partnerships affiliated with the Climate Ready Workforce for Coastal States, Tribes, and Territories competition. We are first going to hear a presentation by Frank Neopold, and then we will moderate a Q&A session. If you can chat or type your questions into the chat box, we will ask them of Frank in the order in which they are received. After this webinar, we will post a recording and a transcript to our website, which is posted in the chat box. It's seagrant.noaa.gov/CRW. And with that, I will hide and turn it over to Frank.
Brooke, thank you so very much for this wonderful opportunity to be with you all. I hope you can appreciate, there, my screen just decided to not show what I was looking for. And we're back. Oh, technology. It's only been a pandemic and it's still not doing right things. So I hope you can see my slide. Is that, Brooke, can you confirm that for me?
Yes, we are seeing your opening slide.
Fantastic. So just want to make sure we're there. So I hope you can all appreciate this. This is a really exciting time for NOAA. This program that we have the I guess honor and privilege to lead for NOAA on Climate Ready Workforce is a really exciting opportunity for the agency and for the nation. And so it's an exciting group of people across the agency who've been working together for quite some time to figure out how to design this really new climate workforce program for the agency. So I just came from the NOAA, the Department of Commerce Workforce Council. So we're part of a family of activity across the department and the government that is working in this new space, workforce, at least for us. So let's just get into it. Really, the point of this webinar is because of the model that we built around this, which comes from the Economic Development Agency's Good Jobs Challenge funding opportunity. I just got a briefing about them just a couple minutes ago. So because it comes from that, there's a couple key parts of this grant program that requires NOAA partnerships, specifically focused on the climate resilience aspect of the funding opportunity. So let's just get into it. So here are a couple things we're going to get into: NOAA partnerships, a little bit about the legislation and why that's important, some of our goals, important dates, and application breakdown. We're really going to spend a lot of time on the application breakdown as it relates to partnerships. So we should go pretty quickly. This is me. So I am now the Senior Climate Education and Workforce Program Manager at the Climate Program Office. I just used that workforce is a new one for me. So, but when we have this opportunity to build this part of the Inflation Reduction Act program that NOAA received a significant funding, it's a really important opportunity for the agency to advance its mission of a climate-ready nation. But that's just NOAA's part. This is a wider administration and national and even international effort. But I'm talking about working on climate. But this specific program, we needed to weave together multiple offices together to do this grant. You may have heard some of this from the previous webinars, but when we were building this, each agency office that's in here, the Climate Program Office, the Office of Coastal Management, and the Sea Grant Office all play complementary and differentiated roles based on our expertise, our experience, and our work as it relates to this program priorities. So Sea Grant is going to be the grant administrator and really manage the opportunity and the grants process. Whereas the Climate Program Office is going to be doing that technical assistance as it relates to climate resilience, really work on the knowledge sharing platform, because we don't want this just to be, we want to help you all potential applicants be successful, but also potentially inform other organizations and entities around the nation and beyond as it relates to climate ready workforce. And then also we'll be managing the reporting and monitoring aspect with Sea Grant. But then also the Office of Coastal Management is coming in to help with the training pieces, which is really another piece of technical assistance to support all applicants as they move forward into their grants to really ensure that climate resilience aspect. So That's really the point of this partnership. It's an exciting partnership, and but there's another dimension to this. This has been designated as a Justice 40 program. So because of the geographic aspect of this grant, because it is coastal states, territories, and tribes within those states and territories, but it's Justice 40 communities in those states is really but 40% of those dollars need to be represented across the entire program. So this graphic shows you that. So again, that 40% of the overall benefits of these investments flow to disadvantaged communities. The red and the levels of red are those disadvantaged communities. But while the Justice 40 programs focus on climate change, they also focus on these other activities that are important for our nation. Notice that the workforce development and climate change priorities of Justice 40 show up together in this particular solicitation. It does work with these other priorities. The key thing, as you see, clean transit, clean energy, energy efficiency, sustainable housing, is this grant must focus on resilience as the goal, climate resilience. If it touches these other activities, those are secondary effects. We know that programs and projects around the nation do work on energy efficiency and resiliency, but you could also work on energy efficiency for a low carbon goal. It can't just be a low carbon decarbonization strategy. It must have a resilience aspect. All of you potential applicants have to make that case in your applications. So just to remind you again, the goal of this program, it's a really special goal, and there's an important emphasis here, is to recruit, train, place workers in good jobs. That means something very particular, and I think the other webinars have covered what good jobs means. I'm not going to go into that today, but that enhance climate resilience. So that this goal, while it's quite crisp, actually these words really mean very different things. That placement aspect is really important in this grant, and our job is in this and leveraging partnerships is to help you do that in a way that enhances climate resilience. So that's really the focus of this one. This is the important dates. We are in the 4th webinar right now. There's another one on August 2nd, and then the letters of intent, which are required, due November 30th, and then applications due on the 13th of 2024 in February. So that's the main thing. All the information, captions, and PDFs, and all that information should be available at the web address that Brooke provided for you. So let's get into it. This URL is in the NOFO, and it is named as resources to support you as you begin considering and developing your grant. And we have done a lot of work to try and help you understand where could you go to meet all the diverse requirements. This link is right below there at the bottom. But I hope you find this webpage is important. The U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit will be our knowledge sharing platform for grantees, for people working in this grant. It's a publicly facing website, but really as we move forward to helping you in developing your proposal, helping you coordinate and collaborate once you are funded, and then also to help other people interested in learning from the work that you've done going forward. So that's why it's here. In that webpage, thank you, Brooke. I was hoping you would do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. There is a section on NOAA and NOAA partner resilience assets, and you can look through all of these. These are all linked there. But NOAA, what's really good for all of you is NOAA is an incredibly collaborative agency. The people we work with and the people across our agency in many offices are by their very nature incredibly collaborative. This is a collaborative opportunity to do something very important that's new for the agency. So I'm gonna walk you through some of these, but these assets are all there for you at that URL in the NOAA and NOAA partner resilience assets. I'll unpack some of these for you so you can really look at them in detail. But please, I hope you find these links helpful. One of the ones we'll get into in a little bit is the Regional Integrated Science Assessments Program. That is actually now named CAPRISA, which is Climate Adaptation Partnerships / Regional Integrated Science and Assessments Program, or CAPRISA to keep our acronyms flowing. But obviously, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Sea Grant is going to play a critical role. All the state sea grants are going to play a critical role, and other assets across our agency. So just appreciate, I hope you can kind of start unpacking wherever you are in the country with whatever issues you want to focus on, whatever topics, projects within the coastal states that you think are important to advance and help support with creating jobs to help those efforts. That's there are different assets and depending on where you are in the country. So part of our job in the Climate Program Office is to help you navigate that space if you're having trouble, because we are a partner to this office, the Sea Grant Office. So I went through the solicitation, and I found all the key areas where we talk about partnerships. So that's the point of this call. So let's just dig into some of that. In order for this grant to work, looking at the Economic Development Agency's Good Jobs Challenge model, we'll get into that in just a second, you're going to have to form a group of partnerships in order for this grant to be successful. It is to train workers to place them in jobs that enhance climate resilience, but it's to form the partnerships, which is why we gave, between when we released the notice of federal opportunity and the letters of intent, which are required due the end of November, that for a lot of people, that's a long time. The reason why it's a long time, because it's going to take you time to build the relationships and to form the partnerships from a diverse set of capabilities within your region. And if you're looking for really where employers need help developing workers, you need to build those relationships to which employers working on what projects in what parts of the nation that are eligible, in order to then understand how would you build partnerships around that. That's going to take you time, and again, that's why we extended the grant writing before the letter of intent as long as we did for this exact purpose. If you go deeper into the NOFO, and by the way, these are all sequential points in NOFO. I figured it'd be easy that way than jumping around, but to form those partnerships, but to collaboratively support regional economies, right? So again, it can be whatever regional means. It could be regions within a state, depending on the size of the state. It could be regions where it's multi-state, but still, supported by that, but, in-demand skills, which means that employers are having a hard time finding a certain skill to employ. They have funds, and they can make that commitment to hire them, but they don't have they can't find a group of people. The funds for this grant can support wraparound services, which is who would provide that in the partnership, allow workers to successfully enroll in programs, and then also eventually get placed and enter good jobs that enhance climate resilience. So there's a group of things that are involved here that require different expertise, thereby you need partners. So, the partnerships to identify the skills needed by industry and workers or employers is a really important part of that, again, and those could be sectoral partnerships. These are two different types of activities, but when you're working on this, I think that some of the NOAA entities might be great places to interview for what is your awareness of the resilience related work that is going on, to help us figure out, can we contact them as potential workforce, who would commit to, who's going to do the work. I think it's a really challenging grant. It's an important one, but it's also challenging to put together. So I think anybody can give you situational awareness of what resilience projects are going on. NOAA affiliated entities might be helpful. This diagram was in the solicitation. It's a really important diagram. It comes again from the EDA Good Jobs Challenge model. We made a couple modifications to it, but the circles and the triangles and the star play different roles. Employers are over there on the triangles. Strategic partners are over there in the blue circles, a backbone entity coordinating all of these diverse capabilities. But that top blue circle, NOAA affiliated entities, what their primary function, and that's really the point of this webinar, is to help you with the climate resilience aspect. Whether you need additional, when you're training, who's going to provide what skills, what resources, what expertise, what knowledge sets relate to that part of climate resilience. We're hoping that a NOAA affiliated entity would play that collaborative role for you. And that's why we're going to get into how you find those as we go through this. So, this idea of how employers work with strategic partners to train and hire, that means that the employer is going to play an active role in the partnership between all of those triangles and circles, coordinated by the backbone star. But how the workforce entities, employers, strategic partners work together to place and train workers is a really important piece here. And while the backbone is going to be the intermediary across the partnerships, and it's all laid out in the grant, I think it's a really important, because it's going to take a diverse set of capabilities. Inside that are the NOAA entities. So having that strong commitment is going to be a critical piece of success. Again, we're going to get into where you find them. And I think that this slide shows you, in our estimation, in the NOFO, who could be that. And we are government, but not all parts of NOAA are government. Some of them are state government, like Sea Grant. Other times they're education institutions, including higher education, because a CAP RISA it's a grantee of NOAA, and they are usually at an academic institution, a higher education. We also have partnerships with HBCUs and other organizations. So this ecosystem of strategic partners, I think, is really important for you just to begin working on. I could only imagine how much time it'll take to really find the right mix of what kind of projects, who are all the people, who are the partners that come together. But this last bullet, I think, is going to be a really important piece. And again, I'm going to walk you through a couple ways how I think it will help you find those NOAA affiliated entities. I think a really important point here is an application demonstrates how the partnership will place people in good jobs that enhance climate resilience. And that good jobs, that's been covered already. Placements, meaning that the grant dollars don't actually go to hiring the person, but they do the work to make them prepared, that a workforce entity, an employer, then hires them so that they have a job after the training and the engagement. At the end of the day, we're trying to grow the workforce that enhance climate resilience across the nation on many sectors and topics. And so I just thought this was a really important point. We emphasize this practitioner's guide for implementing steps to resilience as a resource to help you with how to work with that. And these practitioners are, I think that you'll find that resource very helpful. So, I think I'm not sure as I'm reading this how applicable, but there are different approaches that I thought, this was a helpful way, because we're seeing this, it's a new idea. So we're giving you counsel and guidance about different ways that this might happen. One region might do it one way, another region might be doing another, a third region might be doing. So we're expecting a diversity of the way that circle with triangles, diagrams, and stars works. But, how you move that forward is really going to be based on what's going on in your region, whichever one you're focused on, or whichever one you're going to be working within. So, I'm just going to emphasize this firm employment commitments is a really important part about this, and that is part of leveraging partners, not the NOAA partnership, but I definitely thought that was a key point here. This idea, and I heard this actually from Good Jobs Challenge just earlier today, that sometimes employers don't really realize that they're supposed to play an active role in the partnership. I heard that earlier today because of my Department of Commerce workforce coordination. but that's I think a really important thing to set those expectations to make sure that the employer is involved in it, so that when they recipients of that training and intervention to help them are ready for that job that the employer sees a need for. And and I think that sectoral partnerships that need to bolster resilience is a really important piece, right? So make sure we got that. And overcoming barriers to labor markets. This is where I think the Justice 40 language on page 14 really comes in. Again, this is a Justice 40 program, so being able to deal with those requirements and counsel is really important, because there are historic challenges for workforce, and that we want a just transition here. So we need to make sure that the flow of funds to help create more jobs actually goes to those who have been historically marginalized and underserved. So the language is there, and we do encourage partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities, tribal colleges and universities, minority serving. Oh, looks like there's a 13 in there for some reason. Probably a citation. Anyway, I think you get the point there. It's an important piece. There are an emerging area of focus on what we're calling climate service practitioners. If that helps you find people to be strategic partners in your proposals, there are other organizations like the American Society for Adaptation Professionals or other entities that are kind of a pool of these people. This comes from the practitioner's guide that we've developed on the Climate Resilience Toolkit. But I think that these people can help identify employers and skilled workers and helping and build resilience. So those climate service practitioners could be essential for you to collaborate and at the early phase to figure out where are the projects that would be likely to be needing more employment skill and new people. So switching gears, this is a tool. It's in the NOFO. On the U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit called Find Experts. So on the top there, under the U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit, you have these expertise. It's in there. And down there, you see Find Experts. And so this tool is an interactive website. I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the pieces of it. And what it does is it shows you who is working on climate resilience around the nation from the NOAA side. And so as you go through this, I think it'll unpack for you in a helpful way. So in the U.S. offices of the state climatologists, in every state, I don't know if it's every state, but there's supposed to be one in every state. There are people who are called state climatologists. They might be a helpful entity. I just highlighted Phil Mote in Oregon. This is an interactive website. You can click on any of those dots and have it pop up. And you should be able to find and view their website and get to the person who is the current state climatologist that we have on record. There might be a little bit of delay, but again, this might be somebody to interview, engage early in the process. They might be a valuable entity to help you with your project in the actual partnership, or just to help you figure out which partnerships projects would be active that you want to work with. So state climatologist, very helpful. Thank you, Brooke. You're awesome. For putting that in there. So then this is the CAPRISO I was talking to you about. Notice that it's not in everywhere in the country, but the good news for you, as far as I can tell, that there are CAPRISOs in all states that are eligible, because the weird shaped one that's around the Great Lakes covers all the Great Lakes states, but it doesn't all aspects of the states. But I think the CAPRISOs are a really important program for you to consider collaborating with, interviewing, engaging, and you can kind of start walking through there. And again, each of you, I don't know who you are and how many of you are and where you work or where you're interested in working, but these entities are incredibly valuable. You'll see a list there on the side of other NOAA entities. All of them are eligible to help you with what your project is trying to do. CAPRISOs are really at that climate adaptation partnerships. So they're really at the high value for what you're trying to do in your projects, as again, could be a very strong partner for you. Below that is the regional climate services directors. Now, these people, like the one I've highlighted, Ellen McRae from the Northeast region, she's an amazing person to collaborate with, but also her purview is the region. So the Northeast region, so her job is to know what's going on, who's working on what, and how you might be able to connect with different projects, different people, different assets, so these people could be very early on, not saying not later, but helping you figure out what's potential, what's the really good places to go to explore and get into some possible steps. So, the regional climate service directors are a very powerful opportunity for you. As you get into Sea Grant, now this is a Sea Grant program for the grant administration, but that's the national Sea Grant. In the state Sea Grant programs, these people are also on the ground in the regions that you are eligible, and they could play a critical role in helping you move forward your program, your proposal, your partnerships. And so, I just highlighted Puerto Rico, which is an eligible territory, as is the U.S. Virgin Islands and others. So, NOAA has partnership collaborations, entities in 7 time zones, all the way out to the Marianas and the Pacific territories. So I think that you'll find these to be incredibly helpful for you. The NERS, the National Estuarine Research Reserves, another entity with a state and federal government relationship between the two. Again, there are a ton of these entities that are very aligned with region issues and could play a critical role directly or help you get connected to other regional activities that they're aware of, but are not directly involved in or are a partner to. Again, just trying to help you figure out how to navigate your landscape as you move maybe from a strong workforce program focus into a climate resilience related workforce program. Having these kind of capabilities would be helpful in you building your proposal partnership team. And then I went out to the another part of the federal family, which can be incredibly helpful. There's no reason why this has to be only NOAA people, is the Pacific Islands Climate Adaptation Science Center, which comes through the Department of Interior. And, they're working in the Pacific region in Hawaii. We also have a CAPRISA in the Pacific. I would see multiple federal entities and networks and capabilities. Those are also named here that might be very helpful for you to look at and partner with and collaborate with. So as you move forward in your proposal, we also named that the AmeriCorps or core networks could be helpful to you. And these are really important entities. We do not have the civilian climate corps that the administration had tried to build, but the core programs are also really important to explore. So when I think about that, and I'm just a step ahead of you, is the AmeriCorps has this climate area, and there might be great people to talk to. The link is right there, AmeriCorps, what we do, climate. I think that might be a one way to start getting into the AmeriCorps programs. You might get to it from a state area. Just wanted to highlight for you, but also there are these state and NGO not affiliated with the state, but work with the state programs like the SEI Climate Corps program in California. I know them very well. I've been a partner with them for many years. There are sometimes state programs, sometimes other programs, but these Climate Corps programs are incredibly helpful and could be very either strong models, partners, strategic partners, and such. So that's my 32-minute version. Hopefully I gave you something that is helpful in leveraging partnerships to ensure that your programs create good jobs that enhance climate resilience. Brooke, I think we can open up to questions, and I'm here. If I can be of help, that's why I'm excited to be with you today.
Thank you so much, Frank. We had several questions during your presentation, some of which
Okay,
were affiliated with sharing the web links. So I've been trying to keep up with
sure.
that. And one of the ones I'd like to point out, we had a specific request for the Justice 40 Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool
Yes.
space. So I shared that. So the
Mhm.
first question I'll ask you, is an applicant expected or encouraged to directly collaborate with their state's Sea Grant program in the application?
I mean, I will refer to the National Sea Grant Office. I would think Joshua Brown. I mean, Brooke, you may know. I don't believe there's an explicit expectation that you must work with the Sea Grant Office. You're encouraged to because they're amazing, but I don't think you're required to. Brooke, does that sound right to you? That's how I would answer it.
Yep, that's accurate. So for folks who may be familiar with other Sea Grant administered funding opportunities, sometimes applicants are required to apply with and through a Sea Grant program. That is not the case for this funding opportunity. I think, Frank, your description of the many useful partners and climate experts around the country, many of which are NOAA affiliated, some of whom are Sea Grant. I think that's the direction we provide everyone and is consistent with the NOFA language.
And I'll just reinforce that there are other major federal climate entities outside of NOAA, the USDA climate hubs, or I mean, I gave you the climate adaptation centers, but there's others. And so I think that, it's really about building a partnership set, that circle with the triangles, circles, and star, that really does a successful job in creating good jobs that enhance climate resilience. And where there is a NOAA partner or a NOAA asset or a NOAA capability that helps you, please use it. Again, it is use it as much as you can. It's not. I don't think we would be much more excited if you had a successful grant that really did an amazing job, um, than whether or not you use any particular NOAA asset or capability. They're there to be helpful to achieve this important objective.
Thanks, Frank. All right, so
Sure.
questions are rolling in. You're about 10 deep right now.
Now let's go.
Um, okay, so can funding be used to purchase businesses to enable good job creation?
Ooh, to purchase businesses to enable. Mm. So that may not be a me question. Um, I mean, really, what I'm seeing in my interpretation of what this is that it's really more about the recruitment, training, and placing. Because the as I understand it, and again, that I would verify this with Joshua Brown, who is the grants officer for the actual NOFO. We are a partner to that. Um, but the dollars that are involved in the grant are really supposed to go about preparing people for a job, not to create a business. So that, I mean, again, that's definitely one I would check. I think I've given you, Sage, good, solid advice, but I would check to make sure that that's the case.
Okay, thanks. And we can research that and then update our Q&A document.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We have a comment that you may want to speak to. The
Sure.
challenge is always that many partners reference employers, but few have relationships for employers to commit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that as I'm looking at this, the challenge that is, I think, the most important partner in this equation, they're all important, but perhaps the most important, as I think about this in kind of in partnership with you, is that the employer, because the employer is the one that knows what kind of skills are needed. They know where they're having a hard time finding successful applicants for a particular part of a job, a project, and related to resilience. The good news is that there is significant money, federal money, moving from the national government to states and below on resilience right now. So there should be people that are really starting to roll up their sleeves and get to the work of building resilience. But figuring out who's about to do what in the period of time that you need it, what are the roles that they're having a hard time with, that's just going to take some time to figure out. Some projects are going to be more advanced. But I think really, what I heard today from EDA was that sometimes employers don't really realize that they're an active partner in the grant. That's really play a critical role in helping the training programs make sure that they're doing the work that is necessary to make the applicants really what they're looking to be able to do when they get hired. So I don't know if I've gotten, that's the best I got on your question or your comment, but I think that that's a critical piece as I'm thinking about how you would begin evaluating which projects and how you develop them for yourselves.
Thanks, Frank. A related question is, please elaborate on the different ways that an employer can make a commitment to hiring trainees.
So what I think, because we spent a lot of time developing and designing this notice of federal opportunity. It is a long federal opportunity. It is an educational federal opportunity. It's the way Joshua used to refer to it. And I think that that is described in detail in there. And you know, this is one of those times that I'm like, what's in the NOFO is really important. But I think that what an employer needs to commit to is described in the NOFO. I can't cite you the exact page right now because I'm actually talking to you, but I would read that carefully. If you still have a lingering question about that, then I would go to Sea Grant on that one, just because I don't want to give you counsel that is a little off the mark. And I think that in workforce programs, from what I'm understanding, it is common for a workforce to have this relationship where they're making commitments on hiring relative to grant dollars for other activities. So this should not be a foreign thing. It just might be foreign to, thank you, Brooke, you're awesome. It might be foreign to programs that are working on climate resilience, businesses, consulting organizations, sometimes county governments, where this is a new area for them. It's just not a new area for workforce entities making commitments. It just might be for this particular area.
And so I pasted in a reference. Sorry, Frank, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you go. You go.
I pasted in a reference to the section where the NOFO describes the types of commitments, and then I grabbed some language from the NOFO of the types of commitments, commitments such as, right? I'm running this webinar with you, and so I'm not reading the entire 48-page document right now. But I do think that information is helpful, along with the advice to go read that thing, probably for the 10th time, right? It takes a while.
Right. But I think that last, what was interesting about that last bullet, post-training hire, whereby employers commit to hiring a specific number of workers who have successfully created a program, right? That's kind of the ideal one. This conditional hire is still a hire where they're in a kind of a temporary mode. But one thing that I heard today that was a little interesting was that if the employer, you complete the Climate Ready Workforce program, and then you go into a employer hired training program, you could be actually considered hired, but you're actually still in training. So some people are like, oh no, that counts, but the person is actually getting workforce employment hiring. That happens. And so, it's like you could still be on that training continuum, but actually you've met the criteria for being hired because your salary and your benefits are being provided by the employer. That counts as hired in the reporting requirements.
All right, thanks, Frank. Another question we received, would TerraCore, an AmeriCorps model program, be eligible as a partner?
I would be hard pressed to say why they would not be. If they are in the geography, they are serving, members or communities that are in Justice 40 spaces inside those states and territories and tribal nations that are eligible in territories. Don't forget about the territories. I don't see why they wouldn't be eligible. I don't know that particular program or model, but I think that the eligibility requirements really have more to do with geography, who's being served, and things of that nature, than in what role they're playing. Are they a circle, or are they a triangle, or are they a star? I think the stars are really the ones who are managing, are submitting and managing the federal award. So, obviously that has certain requirements associated with it as well. Not everybody can do that. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you. So
Sure.
we also received a question asking what the page count is for our project narratives. And so I went ahead and just found that in the NOFO.
Thank you, Brooke.
I'm guessing you don't remember exactly what that's referenced.
On page 38, it says in subsection 2, I have no idea.
Yeah. So it's actually page 21. And I will, for convenience, I will copy and paste into the chat a link to the direct PDF of the NOFO. And we recognize that it is a large document and it takes many times.
But I think the largeness is really meant to be helpful. It's not meant to be, it's meant to be there to really give you the information, like we're having this conversation, you know what I mean? To be helpful in giving you the information so you can be successful. We don't want anybody to be wasting their time doing something and then, well, what? I didn't see that. We're trying to help you with the length here. We pared it back as much as we could, but we felt that the model that came from EDA was really important to include a lot of different dimensions that was there. So hopefully that helps you.
Thanks. So we currently have 7 questions in the queue, and you have just for time management purposes.
I'll be quick.
All right. Are there any successful pilot programs for this, or are we the pilot project?
Yes, there are. So if you go to EDA Good Job Challenge, you can see successful applicants. And I believe and let's be clear here. There was a program that was funded by EDA, Good Job Challenge, called Wind for Maryland, I think it was. It's a good model of who was involved, but the focus of the grant would not be eligible because it was a climate mitigation, carbon reduction strategy. Clean energy is not eligible directly. If the clean energy work was helping build energy resilience to ensure communities had, access to energy at times of challenge, whether it's wildfire or cold, you name it, that's moving more onto the resilient side. If I remember right, there was a California model that had to do with wildfire. That one, I think, is probably the most eligible because it's the same program model. EDA Good Job Challenge is the basis for climate resilience or climate ready workforce. So I would look at that one, specifically the California one, if I remember right. You can look at any of the EDA Good Job Challenge and see the kind of how did they put together that strategic partnership set, who played the circles, who played the triangles, who played the star. There are different models there's 2 models over there in EDA. We just used one of them, the simpler one. So I think that anywhere in there, I would look at those to be as exemplars. they're actually training people and they're getting placed into jobs as we speak. I can even give you the numbers if you wanted it, but that's what I would do. So you're not the first, it's just the first one only focused on climate resilience.
Yeah, great questions. Okay, so the next question, by the way, you got several comments saying that that was really helpful to know.
Ooh, yay. I like being
yay.
helpful.
All right, shifting gears to another question.
Sure.
Following up on a previous question, can an academic, such as a professor type person, be the applicant and add the state Sea Grant office as a partner or a NOAA lab as a partner?
So, I mean, I think, if somebody's working in higher education, they should have a grants office. So could they be a PI? I don't see any reason why not. Could they add different partners into that? Absolutely. Obviously, who is paying and who's receiving money and things of that nature, there are some rules and stipulations. I don't believe any, I have to check on this one, but no funds from this can go to federal civil servants. I have seen places where money from NOAA grants have gone to other NOAA entities, but I don't know exactly what the limitations are. There's some special challenges there that you have to be careful. Like for me, I'm fully paid for. I can't, nor should I receive any dollars from a grant. My assistance to you is already paid for, but there are other entities that might require a partnership cost. But I think I don't see any reason why. Obviously, you have to have a grants office. You have to be able to administer and submit the grant, and there's a lot of rules about that and capabilities. So that would be the easy way to think about it.
Yeah, and Frank, if I can, I'll just supplement that answer by saying,
sure.
As you talk with NOAA affiliated programs such as Sea Grant, CAPRISA, et cetera, and as you talk with NOAA offices, such as the NOAA lab, I think was the reference given, they will know their own funding structure and capabilities and limitations in terms of receiving federal funds. So you don't have to know grants law.
Exactly. They should know what they can do and what they can't do.
Right. Okay, so next question.
I just found the link to the California Resilient Career in Forestry grant from EDA. I put it in the chat. So this is the one I was talking about, and I'll put the wind one in just a second. But thank you. The next question.
Okay. Can the funds be used for employers as incentives?
Can the funds be used for employers as incentives? I don't know. That's a good question. Meaning that the money would move, some portion of money would move from the grant to the employer to then use an incentive to get people to actually take. I don't know. That's a Sea Grant question.
Okay, we will research it and get back to folks by updating our Q&A document.
Yeah, that's a great question, though.
Okay. Will there be cost share requirements with this award?
I believe we successfully removed that cost share requirement. It was a negotiated point in the process. I do believe there is no cost share requirement. Brooke, since you have that in there, I imagine that's pretty easy to find, but that is my recollection of this program.
Yes, and to quote Joshua from yesterday's informational webinar, no match is required, but showing other people's support and money is helpful.
You delivered his line well.
Like that makes a strong project, but there is no requirement for match or cost share, same thing. Okay, so we have 8 minutes and our question bank is still growing. If we don't get to all of them, we can update the Q&A document with written responses.
Yep.
From the state of California, we found also apprenticeship programs work well with companies in the hiring process.
Yep.
Would you like to comment on that?
I mean, I think as we've thought about this, apprenticeship programs can absolutely play a role. It really depends on the employer, what kind of job the employer is trying to find, to fill, to hire, right? Apprenticeship programs can play a key role in certain positions. I think that the one thing I saw from EDA's data was the length of training for an enrollee potentially, right, differed, and there's a range of them. And the way I interpreted that data was, if you are looking at a relatively lower skill set, remember the scenarios, we spent a lot of time on the scenarios: single skill, single job, single skill, multiple jobs, single skill, multiple skills, multiple jobs. Depending on what you're doing inside this grant, based on what the employer is looking for, the length and the architecture of the program are going to change. Environmental engineers I don't think something you're going to be able to create within 12 to 24 months. I could be wrong, but I think that really it requires which workforce program elements are going to be needed in the context of which job is needed. So I'm saying yes, but it really depends on what job it is that you're trying to supplement and create and grow the number of, which combination of known tools and program interventions you would use to be successful in that job. So, yes, but.
Okay, how are you thinking about including unions in the partnerships?
I mean, obviously unions play, I don't see there's anything in there that says unions can't play a role in this partnership model. I don't even know if there's anything in there that would say that unions couldn't be a backbone. But obviously the geography of this grant is going to have states where unions are not very robust, or maybe really challenging to work, in other states where unions are incredibly powerful parts of the employment process. So I think it really depends on the geographic context, the state context, the law architecture of where you are. But it is absolutely the case that unions play a critical role in training and growing the skills for specific jobs. And there are already unions that are very advanced in certain aspects of climate related jobs. And they're doing, like I know New Jersey Carpenters Union is training people to become offshore wind professionals, carpenters. So there's some, even though they're named carpenters, I would imagine other unions are doing some things that are very interesting in here that you would not expect to be resilience related jobs. So I think, digging in and really be kind of taking a creative, interpretive read as you scan for partnerships would be an important part of that. But I don't believe there's anything prohibiting union participation in this at all.
Okay, let's see, we have just a couple more minutes, but we do have one more question that I may need to answer, but I'm going to push it to you first.
Sure.
Are we able to put our contact info on here for anyone in our region who might be interested in forming a think group?
What's the last thing? Forming a
group.
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. I got this, people have been reaching out to me, and since I'm not in this grant, I can have side conversations. I'm available to, if you have follow-on conversations, like, I really want to dig into these CAPRISAs. Can you help me get connected? I'm very happy to take that call and set up a meeting to help you as you're thinking this through. What I said was, like, everybody who's showing up at these, you don't know who else is here. The only people that know that, I think, is Brooke, is you. You know whose emails have come in. If people wanted to know who else could we talk to in a state to maybe work collaboratively, I definitely can't share that information because I don't even have it. but who gets to share it and who gets to ask and say, I'm totally cool, send, let's have a conversation in the state, or let's not have a conversation. I don't get who gets to decide that one, Brooke. I mean, that's you a question.
Yeah, so for this webinar, we did figure out how to at least show the attendee list openly. So that's a thing.
Sure.
Another thing that we've been working on is setting up a space in a platform called Discord. And we owe everyone that link, and we can share that on our web page and in our Q&A document as a follow-up to this webinar. We can also email everyone who attended this webinar with that link. So Discord is kind of like an open chat space for folks to say, hi, I live in such and such state. I'm interested in this kind of partnership, blah, 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 right? Yeah. So we haven't shared that out. We've still been setting it up in the background, but we will do that very soon.
And and if you are in that, you join it and you say, hey, I'm in Georgia, I'd love to see who else is working on a climate ready workforce program, maybe we could partner. You're in control of what you put out there, and other people are in control of what they respond to. So I think, Brooke, I love that. My sons, who use Discord all the time, would probably giggle at that, but that's all right.
Yeah. I'm not. Well, we are at the top of the hour. So Frank, I will give it to you for closing remarks.
Sure. I hope you all, it's so hard talking to an empty room, but I hope you all feel that the challenging dimensions of this project are worth trying to figure out. How do we solve for the climate resilience workforce? One thing we're definitely seeing across the nation is we've had the policies, the technologies, the plans, the everything is there. But what it's coming down to sometimes that helps us not really accelerate these climate solutions and put them into places to help decarbonize and build resilience is the people to actually do the work. We're now at that stage of addressing the climate crisis. And so anything we can do to start figuring out how do we expand the funnel to get more capable people, especially from historically marginalized and underserved communities, into jobs that are good for them, good for their community, good for the dealing with climate. I don't know of a better program that would be more important right now than what we're doing right here. And I do know that our partners over at Department of Energy have a ton of workforce programs related to aspects of the climate mitigation, decarbonization part. So if you're really like, oh, what, this is awesome, but I want to work on climate mitigation, Department of Energy, maybe even EPA, but just not NOAA in this round. So, and anything we can do to help you be successful. Again, NOAA is an incredibly collaborative agency. I'm excited to work with you if that makes sense for you. And hopefully we can figure out how to make this a really incredibly successful program together. So thank you all for making your time with us.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks,
many participants have shared their thanks to both you and Crystal.
So, yeah, thank you, Crystal.
Thanks everyone for joining. Resources will be available soon.